Short Read 1. Remember to annotate as you read.
Rachel Carson, A Clear Vision, by Catherine Goodridge. Rachel Carson was a scientist and a writer who helped to shape the modern environmental movement. Carson had a strong sense of wonder about the beauty of the natural world, and she instilled that same feeling in others through her words and actions. Carson was born in 1907 in a rural Pennsylvania river town called Springdale, near the Allegheny River. As she explored the woods and fields around her family's farm, Carson fell in love with nature. She went on to study biology in college, and then spent summers during graduate school doing research in marine biology. With a master's degree in zoology, Carson began working for the U.S. Bureau of Fisheries. She also wrote newspaper and magazine articles about nature and conservation in a way that a general audience could understand. Eventually, she decided she could best share her vision of the natural world through her writing. Carson's books about the sea included The Sea Around Us, 1951, which won the National Book Award for Nonfiction, and The Edge of the Sea, 1955. But it was in 1962 that Carson published Silent Spring, the book that would alter environmental policy and change people's understanding of their relationship to the world around them.
The more Rachel Carson saw of the natural world, the more she wanted to learn and write about it. Every once in a while, in the history of mankind, a book has appeared which has substantially altered the course of history. Senator Ernest Gruening, on Silent Spring.
In the powerful first chapter of Silent Spring, Carson portrays a fictional American community that is mysteriously stricken with sickness and death. She asks, what has already silenced the voices of spring in countless towns in America? The answer comes in the chapters that follow, as Carson explores the detrimental effects of insecticides and how these toxic chemicals, used to rid crops of destructive organisms, leak into the surrounding water, air, and soil. She details how birds, animals, and ultimately humans are affected as these poisons pass through the food chain and the entire ecosystem becomes contaminated. Carson's cautionary tale helped people realize that they are part of a delicately balanced ecosystem, which they greatly impact and must help preserve for the health and survival of all living things. Writing Silent Spring was a brave act. The multi-billion-dollar chemical industry condemned Carson, denouncing her research and her book. Still, Carson testified before Congress. She used her research to show the harm of pesticides like DDT were doing. Silent Spring became a bestseller. Laws were passed to ban or control the use of dangerous pesticides. Rachel Carson died of cancer in 1964, just 2 years after Silent Spring was published.
Short Read 2. Remember to annotate as you read.
Stewards of the Land, Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir, by Laura MacDonald. Theodore Roosevelt. President Theodore Teddy Roosevelt was born in New York City in 1858. As a child, Roosevelt was given to illness, so his father encouraged him to take up vigorous sports to strengthen his body. He also loved the study of animals. Throughout his life, Roosevelt enjoyed the outdoors and nature. In 1883, he traveled to the Dakota Territory to hunt buffalo. By the time Roosevelt left this area, known as the Badlands, due to its rugged terrain, he had purchased a herd of cattle and invested in a ranch. According to the National Park Service, NPS, Roosevelt's investment reflected his binding connection to the wide open spaces he had come to love. In 1978, the area was established as the Badlands National Park. Roosevelt worked to protect the land and its ecosystems throughout his private and political life. After he became President of the United States in 1901, he used his position to set aside 230 million acres, 93 million hectares, of protected federal land, an area more than twice the size of California.
Roosevelt was an avid outdoorsman. Badlands National Park, South Dakota. We have fallen heirs to the most glorious heritage a people ever received, and each one must do his part if we wish to show that the nation is worthy of its good fortune. Theodore Roosevelt.
According to the NPS, Roosevelt created the United States Forest Service and established 51 federal bird reservations, 4 national game preserves, 150 national forests, and 5 national parks. By signing the 1906 American Antiquities Act into law, he ensured the legal protection of the country's cultural and natural resources. He used the law to proclaim 18 national monuments. Roosevelt used stirring speeches to inspire the American people to conserve ecosystems. He never stopped fighting against the businesses and politicians who opposed him and his cause. Roosevelt became known as a champion of conservation. He now well knew that our natural resources could disappear if we did not conserve them. He said, "We are prone to speak of the resources of this country as inexhaustible. This is not so."
Thanks to Roosevelt, we can enjoy our parks. Nature is ever at work, building and pulling down, creating and destroying, keeping everything whirling and flowing, out of one beautiful form into another. John Muir.
John Muir. John Muir came to the United States from Scotland in 1849 when he was 11 years old. Muir worked long hours on the family farm in Wisconsin, but whenever time would allow, he escaped into the countryside. He developed a great love for nature in all of its forms, loving the wilderness not for its value to humans, but for its own sake. As a student at the University of Wisconsin, Muir studied geology and botany. Later, he immersed himself in nature, retreating to the wilderness for long stretches of time. As described in Ken Burns's documentary film, The National Parks, America's Best Idea, in 1867, Muir walked from Indiana to Florida, sailed to California, and then walked northwest from San Francisco to the Sierra Nevada mountains. In 1869, he started working in the Yosemite Valley. He lived there for several years.
John Muir seated on a rock, circa 1902. A valley in Yosemite Park.
In the following years, Muir became a spokesman for Yosemite and an advocate for the protection of the nation's woodlands. He wrote many books and magazine articles to raise people's awareness of ecological issues. In his writing, Muir simply and poetically described the importance of getting out into nature. He wrote in his book, Our National Parks, "Climb the mountains and get their good tidings. Nature's peace will flow into you as sunshine flows into trees." John Muir's words helped convince millions of people that the nation's wilderness was worth protecting. In 1890, his efforts led to the creation of Yosemite National Park. During a 3-day camping trip with President Roosevelt in 1903, Muir was able to convince the president to incorporate the Yosemite Valley and the Mariposa Grove of giant sequoias into Yosemite National Park. Muir's writings were also influential in establishing the Grand Canyon and Sequoia National Parks. In 1892, Muir founded the Sierra Club, a group that worked tirelessly to have ecosystems set aside as national parks and national forests. Today, the Sierra Club has over 1 million members. They continue to work to protect the environment and ensure that Muir's legacy lives on.